Come next. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center Pflugerville. And we were just talking about today's word is peace. And that peace comes up a lot in the world. And most of the Holy Scriptures of the world talk about a state of peace. And there's that point where we go someday. Nirvana, heaven, Shambhala. Anybody agree? All religions have their place where everything's peaceful. So it must be part of the culture. There must be something there, because is it part of myth or is it truth? So it's repeated over and over again. And as a Christian faith, which we practice, Jesus talked about the kingdom of heaven. And what did he say about the kingdom of heaven? Where is it? Within. So that's part of what I want to talk about today. The article that we put out in the newsletter on Friday was creating a happy, secure, healthy, and rewarding life. So if we're able to verbalize that, is there a way to do it? Which is part of the conversation that goes on all the time. How do we get to that point where everything works? Everybody agree we're looking for that nirvana, or that point where everything is wonderful. Or the word peace, it brings in all kinds of, Okay, we just sang a song by the name of Blue Skies, which is a famous song, and which implies that there is a point at which everything's wonderful. So the question is, how do we get there? And the world is not teaching us, in my opinion, how to get there. It's teaching us how to not get there by being upset and angry. And anybody familiar with getting back? And jealousy and all those individual energies. I don't know why, when Dee was using her meditation, I got to thinking about everything is an energy transfer. Everybody get that? Because we live in a physical world, but the physical world is put together by the energy behind it. And everything that is of substance is an energy transfer. Stop and think about money. Anybody familiar with money? And what do? We worry about not enough money, or anybody worry about too much money? Okay? So it's like, it's worrying about too much love, too much peace. Do you get that? It's like too much money is just an indicator of how things are working. So it's an energy exchange. And what is the symbol for the energy exchange is the dollar, or the currency, or gold, or what else can you use? Labor. See, it's an energy transfer in another form that so we go to work and we generate money by the labor that we give to a company or to our business, and then we use that in exchange with other people to get food to eat, and maybe to go to the doctor, and we use all this energy, and it is a indication of energy transfer. Everybody get it? So what is the source of energy? The Father within. Okay, so it's all, the whole thing is an energy exchange, and energy is not something that we can see, taste, touch, smell, or experience. It's in the ethers. It's without substance. It is a frequency at a rate of vibration that has a message in it, that in that energy it delivers what the energy is. And how do we transmit that energy in an energy form? My book says every thought is what? An energy. So everything in the spiritual world is the source of energy. And yet what are we doing? We're fighting over physical things. Anybody agree the world appears to be in turmoil right now? Yes? Yes. Anybody disagree with me? But peace is there within our thinking. So it's fascinating to me, and I'm way off because everything I wrote down I haven't covered yet. Okay, so here, how do I create a happy, secure, healthy and rewarding life. And then I have written down, you ready for this? How to create a natural state of being. See, what have we promised? What is heaven? You know, what are the descriptions in most of the Holy Scriptures about the state of heaven? Somebody help me.
State of peace.
What?
A state of peace.
The state of peace. And what is peace?
And love. Okay.
Joy, which is the word that they used, okay? How about enough to eat?
Streets of gold.
What?
Streets of gold.
Streets of gold. Now, is that a metaphor? Could be.
I think so.
I don't know.
All needs met.
What?
All needs met.
All needs met. Now, what needs do you have? See, we decide what needs we have or don't have. So it's all a thought, an intention, belief. Okay, so everything that's happening in our world is based upon energy. And how do we incorporate that energy into our world so that we have this experience of peace, which is everybody talking about. Anytime somebody asks, what do you want in life? World peace. And that's nice, but it's just a word phrase that we use because we don't really understand the transfer of energies. And the transfer of energy has to be from a source which is higher than my level of thinking. So how do I get there? How do I do that? Well, for number one, I have to acknowledge that it's there. Anybody familiar with giving up and not? We've all been, I don't know about you, but we've all been through that agnostic or whatever. Because I used to very proud to be agnostic, and that means I don't know and I don't care. Some of us go through the atheistic point, but the idea is at some point in time, if I want to correct things and I want things to work in congruence, I need to start understanding the exchange of energy. And the exchange of energy is not a physical exchange, it's a energy exchange. And energy is what? Unseen?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. It's everywhere at present, and we can't see it, smell it, touch it, taste it. All we can do is learn to use it, because that's what we are. Why are we here as a human being? Walking around, eating, and all the other things we do. Why are we here?
But can't we feel it? Energy?
Yeah.
We feel energy.
Yeah, you can incorporate it, but it is not something that you can experience unless you learn to experience it, is my opinion now. Okay, now can we split here? Yes. Okay, but what I'm trying to do is make a point of we're dealing with something that isn't in form that we think because I don't have gold or dollars, we don't have enough to eat or whatever it is. So we always go back to the form rather than the spiritual essence, which is energy. Okay. By the way, we didn't plan on doing this metaphor. Okay. So, the question then is, how do we do it? How do we get control of it in our life? Because everything, most of the ancient writings talk about the ability to figure it out, how to work with it. The great leaders throughout history, the King Davids, the Moseses, they figured out how to deal with it. Yes? And most of that's in the Bible, in the Old Testament. And then Jesus came in the New Testament to explain it for the everyday world. And then we have more information coming in today that not everybody accepts, but it is Jesus coming through other people and saying, hey, here's what I really meant. And we do that in the form of Course of Love, of Course of Miracles, and many of the other stuff that's coming in now. I found more online yesterday because I was looking. I even had Madeline order me a new book I'd never heard of, How to Become an Avatar. Wow, okay? So there's all kinds of new information coming through because energies are going higher. We're getting more and more closer to nirvana, and things are changing. Anybody agree it isn't the way it was even 10, 20 years ago?
Yes.
Okay? I was in management for a while of a company, and managing companies today is totally different. Okay, it really is, because things happen fast. So we are speeding things up, and it's up to us to learn how to slow things down so we can be in harmony with the energy. Now, symbiotic behavior is behavior that we've been conditioned to do. I'm trying to remember the word that means we're in energy. Anyway, again, that means retirement, okay? It's crazy, it really is. Because I've always been proud of the words I can remember. But anyway, it's like the idea of learning to be at the same energy. See, when I hang around people that don't think that way, I become the way they think because I become part of that energy. And automatically I start vibrating at their energy.
Frequency?
Frequencies? Frequency, yeah, but it's a word that means we combine our frequency into the frequency we're in. So what I'm going to is combining our frequency into the God energy and not the world's energy. And what does that mean? What that means is learning how to tap into who we really are. Okay? Now, we celebrate the birth of the Christ self within us and go free. That was something I made up and asked her to do a slide on it, okay? But that's really what we're here to do. We're celebrating and we have all this pretty stuff. Look at it, isn't it? We even have a Christmas tree, folks. We really are uptown. And the poinsettias, now what are those symbols? Where did they come from? Why is the poinsettia part of Christmas celebration? Somebody tell me.
Somebody decided it.
Somebody made a decision at some point back in history, and because of tradition, we are continuing to do it. What about the Christmas tree? Anybody tell me what the symbol means, where it come from? Why do we do it? We do it to be in frequency with the culture and community we're in. Anybody agree they do it different in Africa or they do it? Okay, so we become part of the energetic symbol of what's occurring around us. Okay, now there's an overall energy of the universe we're calling God or whatever. Okay, and that energy is inherent within us because you can go to the next slide. Okay? The words that I speak, I don't speak of myself, but my Father who abides with me does these works. So Jesus is saying that, and in this he's saying, I speak these words, but it's not me, it's the Father within. Jesus also said that the kingdom of heaven is where? Within. He also said, these things I do, you shall do, and even greater things in John 14. So what's in you? Tell me. See, I'm trying to be very logical, because I've only got another month to get all this in. Okay? Really? He said, these things I do, ye shall do an even greater thing. And the question is, do we believe him?
Yeah.
And how do we get there if we believe him? Now, if you really believed that was possible, what would you do? What would you give up? What would you spend? What kind of energy would you change in order to reach that state of being? How far would you go? Would you travel? What would you do? How much would you take out of your bank account to get what you want? And how much would peace really mean to you? Okay? It's like the value is what you decide to do and what I decide to do. And it comes down to that. And it's an individual situation, it's not a group situation, although the group helps, don't misunderstand it. Because we do, when we hang around each other, we become like each other. Okay? So, what else? Do you know that you are the temple of God and the Spirit of God dwells in you? Of course, that's all, by the way. So we got that reputation that the Spirit is within you. You are, it's like, it keeps saying it over and over. Right in the beginning, Genesis 1:27, God made us in the image and likeness of God. What is the image of God? Energy. In all this, see, somehow we have to identify things, folks. I have to know that this is what's this called?
Music stand.
A music stand? Okay. Now, all of a sudden, yeah, that's what it is. And you're sitting there agreeing, or how come Robert didn't know what it was? But you still made a decision on a physical description of a physical thing, and your mind goes, yes. And see, we can't do that with something we can't see. So we have to rely on faith. And we have to rely on things beyond that which is seen and known. So we have to say, okay, I believe that, and I'm going to do what's necessary to reach that point. And that's the whole thing behind religion. What do you believe? What do you think you need to do to reach the point of nirvana or Shambhala or heaven or whatever we call it? Okay. So it's really fascinating to me. And what we're finding out now is the kingdom of heaven is within, and the language of love. Do I have that? I don't know what's next. Let's try what's next.
We just had.
No, I didn't give it to you today. The language of God is love. Okay? I do have that in my reference here. I'm not supposed to read out of the Bible, but I will. Okay? So the language of God, and I gotta do this quickly. Okay? And whatever you ask in my name, I will do for you, okay? If you love me, keep my commandments, okay? And even the Spirit of truth in the world cannot receive because it doesn't understand it. The Spirit of truth is what we call God. And I will not leave you bereaved, etc., etc. It's the wrong one. Let me try another one. See, there's all kinds of references everywhere in the Bible. I also get a kick out of it. Anybody here study other religions? So what's fascinating there was the Hindu religion has all different, people call them different gods. No, it's different aspects of God. Okay? And when you really understand that, we talk about the 12 powers of man, which is a direct correlation to the Hindu relation, which says God is this, God is that, God is it. Okay? And it becomes fascinating when you look at what they're studying, is exactly what we're studying in another form. It's an energy idea that has been put into form so that we can understand it in the language in which we're comfortable with. Okay? So the question ultimately becomes, how do I get there? How do I do it? Okay? Now.
Robert, you were talking about in the beginning the word peace, and the word peace is there's so much around that. There's health, there's prosperity, there's abundance, there's just so much to that word. And I remember in the Course of Miracles how they used to talk about that all the time.
And what does the Course of Miracles say?
About peace?
Yes.
I don't remember. Right now, I'll think about it.
I was hoping that we had a reference.
Randy, remember that saying that we both had?
Help me.
Remember that piece of paper that said something and we both agreed on that? I'll figure it out.
We agree on a lot of things.
So here's what I wrote. Okay? The answer is in understanding divine principles, no matter where they come from. What are divine principles? And then applying them in an organized and consistent manner until the truth appears spontaneously in our life and affairs. We're right back to being renewed by the transforming of your mind, which is Paul. Okay, so the message is over and over and over again, the kingdom of heaven is within. The problem is I have not learned how to create that connection within And the energy, the connection is an energy connection, it's not a physical connection. Okay, now what's happening now? I'm thinking about Dispenza, okay, I'm listening to if you go back and study the medieval times on the things that are occurring, the meditation that occurred during that time created monks living in cloisters, etc., and all they did was what? In silence. They also chanted, and so maybe that was the beginning of an idea. Okay, and that idea now is starting to come back out again. And there are teachers, I'm finding more and more teachers. Joe Dispenza is one of them. Carl Moore's another one. There are all kinds of centering prayers, those who've been through that. It's relearning the idea of being still. And why do we be still? Because stillness is the energy of God, or peace of man. Would you agree you can't be peaceful when you're agitated? You can't be peaceful when you're worried. You can't be peaceful when you're thinking in lack. You can't be peaceful when you don't like your spouse. I'm just using, and that occurs, all relationships. So the only way to become change is to become peaceful, and how do you do that? You learn to become still. You learn to shut the mind up and just sit, comfort. You're thinking, I can see.
Yeah. I'm thinking from everything you're telling us, the kingdom of God is within you, and then Christ is the head of this body, and all kinds of things. You also talked about transforming our thoughts.
Yes.
You cannot do that when you don't know who you are.
Say that again.
You
You cannot do that.
when you don't know who you are. If you know that the kingdom of God is within you, if you know when he asks, do you not know that you're the kingdom of God? If you know who you are and remember that,
Yep.
if you really know that powerful ordination, then you don't have to worry about competing with others, because all the competition,
There is no competition.
exactly, and all the argument or having problem with your spouse or
Yeah.
having
It's interesting how often that comes up.
the feeling of lack, it means you don't know who you are, and at the same time, you are afraid of lack. You are afraid you don't have this, you don't have that, so you have to do something.
Good.
So if you know who you are, then
That's-
abide and remember who you are.
Yeah. That's learning to make the connection.
Yeah.
Okay, see, the human mind has to figure things out. What am I going to do? I have to go to work. I'm going to go get a college degree so I can do this. And I'm not saying those things are wrong. I'm just saying that's part of how we get distracted.
Exactly.
And there is no qualification for being a child of God. It's just learning to be who I am, and everything in that process, which is too hard to believe because we're trained, there's no free lunch. Well, there isn't in the physical world, but in the energy world, it's learning to make that connection. And the key to it is, it's when you can learn to get quiet and still and not have thoughts, which everybody will tell you can't do that, but when you learn to do that, things change. Now, I'm going to go a little step. I talked last week or 2 weeks ago about the DNA. They are now learning that DNA can be changed. It's called epigenetics, okay? And epigenetics, that change occurs in the thinking level. In other words, I forget, 30 trillion cells in our body. They all have part of the DNA, and they determine how the chemicals and everything else happen. So there is an automatic code that comes with us as part of the Father within, that's the Christ. And when we get still, the body says, okay, here's the real code that we can use. It's called the Christ code, okay? So how do I get there? I get still enough that the code starts working automatically. Everybody get it? Now, this is dramatic. That's why people don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that because it means I don't have any excuses for what's going on in my life. Okay? And I have to forgive myself for not taking care of myself well enough to go through some of the crap I go through. And I use that word judiciously. So, the point is, what do you want? And are you willing to do what's necessary to change your life? And how do you change your life? The kingdom of heaven is within. And so, celebration of Christmas, it's wonderful. Jesus is like that metaphor saying out there, here's what's possible. But the truth is, the whole universe is waiting for each of us to birth the Christ within us and allow it to take over.
Wake up.
Okay? And so how do we do that?
Be still and know.
Prayer, meditation, reading, and hanging out with people that think the same way, not the jerks. Now, there are going to be all kinds, I don't know about you, but when I sit down to meditate, every kind of thought comes up. Okay? It's part of the ego saying, wait a minute, you can't leave me, I'm going to keep you bound in here. So here's a problem to worry about. Oh my God, what are you going to do because of this? Okay? Anybody have children that create problems occasionally? There's always something coming in to disturb you. Car breakdown, it's absurd. Okay, and the key to it is the Father within, you do it the work. And there's only one way to find that out and prove it to yourself is do it. And you never know until you have that experience. And then you have to rebuild it again. Okay? So I've reached the point, I've only looked at my notes once or twice. But you understand, we are supposed to be naturally in a peaceful environment. Okay? We weren't sent here to go through all the stuff we're going through. Now that's my message, I hope. Okay? And understand that is with love speaking to my consciousness saying, okay, Robert, you've got to live with what you talk about, okay? But I'm asking us to look at that and where we're going and what are you doing to change the inner self? And I hate to admit it, the world is not creating problems for me. Now, I can be upset about the political situation because I don't like Trump or I don't like Kamala but see, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it just keeps me upset so I don't go to the Christ within. So see, if you feel this way, it'll figure this way to keep you stirred up. Anybody stirred up once in a while? Come on, everybody. But the kingdom of heaven is where? Within. Okay, so, I think I've said enough. Yeah. I love you. I really do. And I want you to be happy and successful. Praying for people that are sick is part of the process because we know that sickness is a condition. And also every little thing that occurs in my life that isn't peaceful is created because I'm not peaceful. Okay? And I'm sharing that with you, hoping that you adapt that. And it's a radical change because we have a tendency, even in the metaphysical environment, to say, okay, here's the key, and I'm going to stay here and not look over here. Anybody familiar with magicians that keep you busy here and do the magic over here? And the ego is a master at that. So I'm asking us to get really clear about what we're doing. And the only way to look at that is my life and what's happening. And if I don't like it, the kingdom of heaven is where. So I love you. I'm done. I'm finished. Thank you.